In 1990, many countries were facing a big problem with debt. These were mostly poor and developing nations. They owed more than 1.3 trillion to richer countries. Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina were among the biggest debtors, with debts of 116 billion, 97 billion, and 61 billion respectively. It was a huge issue affecting their economic stability and growth.
This massive debt was split between private creditors, such as commercial banks, and international lending bodies like the IMF and World Bank. During the 70s, banks were eager to lend money to these developing countries. But this also meant high risks. The poorest countries could not borrow much from private lenders, so their debts mostly came from international organizations.
After the borrowing surge in the 1970s, the debt crisis began in 1982. One of the first triggers was Mexico's trouble with debt rollover. Mexico could not pay back its private debts on time. This sudden stop scared other lenders too. With this, many nations found it hard to move from borrowing to repaying loans. Companies and governments needed to pay old debts, but could not find new loans to cover them.
As the crisis began, rising interest rates in the early 80s made situations worse for these countries. They were supposed to pay more on their existing debts because rates were linked to short-term interest rates. At the same time, the country's export earnings were going down as the prices of commodities dropped. Plus, the slow growth in richer countries made it even harder for these nations to manage their debts.
As the debts grew uncontrollably, experts wondered why the crisis hit then. While there are many reasons, the rise in interest rates really hurt debtor nations. This made managing debts tough when many were indexed to those rates. When world trade slowed, these countries couldn't earn as much from exports. They needed export money to pay debts. The shrinking prices of goods they sold meant fewer dollars coming in.
Even though rising global rates and falling commodity prices were big parts, some countries worsened their own problems. They had poor management and sent loan money overseas. This meant less money to help at home. Many governments did not use loans wisely. Now, listeners, if you want full transcripts of our episodes, consider joining us with a paid membership. It supports us greatly and ensures we keep bringing content like this to you.
Mismanagement played a big role in how the debt crisis affected the highly indebted countries. Many of these countries used loans poorly and let a lot of money leave to foreign lands. Governments often invested in projects that didn't help the economy much. For instance, instead of building better roads or schools, some countries sent money overseas to buy properties.
Another big problem was the way they spent money. In many cases, loans were supposed to help build useful things at home, but ended up being used for less helpful projects. Unlike some countries like South Korea, which managed their debts well by focusing on exports and smart economic choices, others wasted opportunities. South Korea showed that a focus on good economic policies could lead to growth, even while paying off debts.
While South Korea strengthened its economy, many highly indebted countries faced growing challenges due to poor planning. They were supposed to use loans to boost their economies, but the money went elsewhere. Investing in projects that did not generate income affected their ability to manage debts. This led to more economic issues and reduced trust from lenders, making it harder to get new loans.
The difference between South Korea and other countries during the crisis was clear. With a strong focus on exports and sound economic strategies, South Korea was able to repay a lot of its debts, even in tough times. Meanwhile, other countries struggled as mismanaged funds and poor choices led to stagnation instead of growth. This shows how important managing money well is when dealing with debt.
In the 1980s, many developing countries faced economic stagnation. They struggled with slow or no growth. Their economies stopped growing due to large debts and difficult conditions. This lack of growth meant less money to improve living conditions or pay back loans. To manage, these countries had to constantly renegotiate loan terms. It wasn't easy as changes were frequent and they often had to agree to pay more or extend the time to pay back.
Sadly, new loans were hard to come by for most of these countries. Only a few, mainly in Asia, managed to secure fresh funds. This was because lenders saw most places as too risky. With fewer opportunities for new funds, struggling nations had to think differently about managing debt. To help, international efforts focused on reducing debts. New ideas aimed at lessening the heavy debt load. These were necessary because economies couldn't grow with such heavy burdens.
Let's explore how some countries started using debt buybacks to manage their heavy debts. These buybacks are when a country repurchases its debt at a lower price than the original amount owed. For instance, Bolivia's buyback in 1988 was quite notable. They bought back debt using funds from friendly countries. Bolivia used $34 million to repurchase $308 million of its debt, paying only 11 cents for every dollar owed.
Buying back debts at a fraction of their original cost might seem like a great deal for the debtor country, but there's more to the story. Surprisingly, even in these situations, creditors often benefit more. These plans can increase the market price of debts. Banks expect some repayment rather than nothing, so they gain leverage in negotiations. This leverage means they might collect more than they initially expected, demonstrating the complex dynamics at play in debt relief efforts.
Let's talk about the Brady Plan. This plan was created to help countries with large debts. It attempts to negotiate agreements to reduce the debt that these countries owe to banks. Governments of rich countries help by providing support for these deals. The plan aims to make paying back debts more manageable for debtor countries. It allows banks to receive some repayment while also helping countries stabilize their economies.
To join the Brady Plan, countries must show a commitment to good economic policies. This means they must manage their money well and make smart choices. Only then can they qualify for support. There are also examples of completed deals. For example, Mexico restructured its debt in 1990 under this plan. This allowed Mexico to handle its debt better and improve its economic situation.
Mexico's involvement with the Brady Plan is a notable case. The deal allowed Mexico to cut its debt load significantly. This move helped build confidence among investors and encouraged economic growth. By restructuring its debt through the Brady Plan, Mexico managed to reduce its financial burden. This also led to improved economic stability, and it provided a good example for other countries struggling with similar issues to consider.
But it isn't just about reducing debts. The plan encourages positive changes in economic policy as well. Countries need to show that they are serious about reforming their economies. This means creating sustainable financial systems and promoting growth. By meeting these criteria, countries can also attract more investments. This, in turn, helps them rebuild their economies, showing that thoughtful debt management can result in long-term benefits.
Many people wonder if debt relief really helps the poorest countries. A common argument is whether relief goes to the people in greatest need. For example, countries in Africa and South Asia often have lower incomes than places in Latin America. Yet, debt relief might sometimes focus more on middle-income nations like Brazil or Argentina. It raises an important question. Are these efforts helping those who need it most?
The problem is complex. Richer countries sometimes send financial help to middle-income nations because they see a chance for a change. These are often countries that show a sign that their economies can grow with some assistance. However, some say it's unfair because many poorer countries do not get the same attention even when they might have a higher need for resources. This makes people think twice about how aid is shared.
Another issue is how aid often leaks to banks instead of reaching people in need. Big financial plans like the Brady Plan might end up benefiting banks more. Sometimes banks expect repayment in large amounts. They might try to influence debt agreements, hoping to receive more money back. This focus on profits can mean less aid reaches the poor.
We also need to consider fairness in resource distribution. When large-scale debt relief plans are made, they can sometimes miss needy areas. This is especially true when the poorer regions have less influence globally. So, while aid seems like a good thing, it may not always go to the places with most need. The poorest regions, like some in Africa, often get less help even though their challenges are greater.
Think about global economic fairness and how these issues touch everyone. Share your thoughts with us. Like and subscribe if you would like to hear more insights like this in future episodes.